You know, over the course of our lives, we are often faced with moments that test our character, moments that ask us not who we say we are, but who we really are, when the spotlight fades and the crowd goes home. It's easy to point fingers, to stir up anger, to divide people based on fear. It's easy to tweet in the dark or speak in half-truths hoping no one notices. But leadership, true leadership, requires more than that. It demands a sense of responsibility. It calls for humility. It calls for grace. See, the presidency, and I've said this before, is not a reality show. It's not about building your brand or chasing clout. The number one thing that most people can't do is not something that most people can do. It's not something that most people can do. It's not something that most people can do. It's not something, it's about the hard, unglamorous work of building bridges where others build walls, of telling people not just what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. It's about listening. It's about service. It's about understanding that every decision you make, every word you speak, has the power to shape lives, to inspire hope, or to plant seeds of division. I've been in rooms where people disagreed with me fiercely, passionately, and yet we found common ground. Not because we shouted each other down, but because we remembered that our democracy depends not on unanimity, but on unity of purpose. Now, there's a tendency, especially these days, for some folks to think that success is measured by how many enemies you make, or how many insults you can throw in a 30-second clip. But let me tell you something. Real strength, it's not in tearing others down, it's in lifting people up. Real power isn't in domination, it's in compassion. It's in knowing when to speak and when to listen. It's in the quiet confidence of knowing that truth has its own rhythm. It doesn't shout, it endures. And when the dust settles and the cameras turn off, what matters is not how many times you got the last word, but whether you stood for what was right, whether you looked out for the kid who's trying to pay for college, the nurse working double shifts, the factory worker praying that their job doesn't get shipped away, whether you told the truth even when it wasn't popular. Because history has a way of sorting things out. It doesn't care for theatrics. It doesn't reward ego. It remembers those who had the courage to face facts, the wisdom to listen, and the heart to lead. So if someone's out there thinking that they can rewrite reality, distort the facts, and get away with it, I've got news for them. The American people are paying attention. And when the truth comes knocking, it doesn't ask permission. It walks right in. Leadership, at its core, is not about being the loudest voice in the room or commanding attention with bravado. It's about showing up consistently for the people you serve. It's about recognizing that your title may give you power, but it's your actions that earn you respect. A leader's job isn't to seek validation, it's to deliver results. And that doesn't come from stirring chaos or feeding division. It comes from taking responsibility when things go wrong, sharing credit when things go right, and always keeping the people, all the people, at the center of your decisions. There's a misconception out there that toughness is about never backing down, never apologizing, and never showing weakness. But that's not strength. That's insecurity dressed up as swagger. True toughness is being willing to admit when you've made a mistake. It's having the courage to listen when others speak, especially when they disagree with you. It's understanding that leadership isn't a performance. It's a service. The president or any public servant doesn't work for applause. They work for the people. And that means putting aside pride, putting aside ego, and doing the hard work of governing. Humility in leadership doesn't mean shrinking from challenges. It means approaching them with the knowledge that you don't have all the answers. And that's okay. That's why we have institutions, advisors, experts. That's why we ask questions. That's why we ask questions, because the job of a leader is not to pretend to know everything, but to ensure the people you lead are informed, protected, and empowered. A humble leader knows that when the stakes are high, it's not the soundbite that matters, it's the outcome. It's to step up, look the nation in the eye and say, here's what happened. Here's what we're going to do, and here's how we'll make it right. Because when you sit in that seat, when the weight of millions of lives rests on your shoulders, you don't have the luxury of excuses. You have a duty. You have an oath. And you're expected to honor it every single day, even when no one's watching. Service, finally, is the thread that ties it all together. Leadership is not about being served, it's about serving others. It's about walking into rooms filled with doubt, fear, and frustration, and offering not just words, but solutions. Best leaders know they are merely stewards of something greater than themselves. They don't seek the spotlight, they carry the torch. Quietly, steadily, for everyone. Strength is too often mistaken for the ability to dominate a conversation, to overpower others, or to never admit you're wrong. But real strength, the kind that matters, the kind that lasts, is something far deeper. It's not about how sharp your words are or how firm your handshake is. It's about the way you carry others when the burden is heavy. It's about how you respond when you have the opportunity to hurt and you choose instead to heal. That's strength. That's courage. And in leadership, that's everything. You see, anyone can point fingers. Anyone can insult, belittle, or blame. That doesn't take character. That takes impulse. But the real test of strength is in how you respond when the pressure's on, when people are angry, when times are hard. Do you fan the flames of division, or do you try to calm the waters? Do you give people a villain to hate, or a reason to hope? A strong leader doesn't exploit pain, they meet it with dignity. They don't turn hardship into a weapon, they use it as a reason to build something better. When you choose to lift people up, you don't always get the applause, you don't always get the headlines, but you get something much more important: trust. Trust that even in disagreement, you're not trying to score points. You're trying to do what's right. And trust, once earned, is the foundation of every great movement, every great administration, every lasting change. Because people remember how you made them feel. They remember if you listened. They remember if you respected their dignity, even when you couldn't give them everything they asked for. That kind of leadership doesn't always show up in the spotlight. And sometimes it shows up in the quiet moments: the phone call to a grieving family, the thoughtful pause before responding to criticism, the decision to put people's needs ahead of your own ambition. Strength is not found in how quickly you clap back. It's in how wisely you respond. It's in being big enough to absorb the anger of others without throwing it back. It's in offering patience when others offer judgment. There's something powerful about a leader who can say, I hear you, I see you, let's work through this together. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Lifting others up isn't just a moral choice, it's a strategic one. Because when people feel empowered, they build, they create, they believe. And when they believe in their country, in their leaders, and in each other, that's when it becomes stronger than any one person, stronger than any one voice. That's when democracy doesn't just survive, it thrives. So don't ever let anyone tell you that kindness is weakness. It's the foundation of who we are. The founders didn't design a system that required everyone to think the same way, vote the same way, or believe the same thing. They designed a system that encouraged debate, demanded discussion, and depended on the ability of people with different backgrounds and beliefs to find common ground. And that's not always easy. It's not always fast. But it's the only way we've ever made real, lasting progress. When unity of purpose doesn't mean we all walk in lockstep. It means we understand that we are bound together by something greater than our individual opinions. That at the end of the day, we are part of the same story, working toward a more perfect union, even if we take different paths to get there. It means putting country over party, principle over politics, and truth over convenience. And it means remembering that our opponents are not our enemies. Without differences of purpose makes us put our purposes on our enemies, then back and often 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 back. They're our fellow citizens, their parents and workers and veterans and dreamers. They want safety, opportunity, dignity, just like we do. It's easy to retreat into corners, surround ourselves with only the voices that echo what we already believe, and shut out the rest. But that kind of division comes at a cost. It creates a society where shouting replaces listening, where suspicion replaces trust, and where the idea of compromise becomes some kind of betrayal instead of the hard work of democracy. We've seen where that leads. A gridlocked government, a public that's more cynical than hopeful, and a culture where people stop believing that working together is even possible. But when we commit to unity of purpose, we start to see each other differently. There's a loss when we put the liberties of purpose on a pedestal and start to see each other differently. We ask better questions, we seek real answers, not just talking points, and we realize that no single party, no single leader has a monopoly on good ideas. Progress is a team sport. It always has been. Civil rights, women's rights, workers' rights, healthcare, education, economic growth, none of these achievements came from one side of the aisle. They came when people were willing to reach across the table, swallow a little pride, and do the right thing. It doesn't mean we back down from our values. It doesn't mean we pretend that every idea is equal or that every voice deserves the same platform. Truth still matters. Facts still matter, and standing up for what's right is part of the job. But when we argue, let it be in good faith. When we disagree, let it be with decency. And when we struggle to find common ground, let it be with the understanding that our democracy was built not for the easy times, but for the hard ones. What makes this country remarkable is not that we always agree, but that we keep trying. We keep working. We keep talking. And we believe still in the power of people, diverse, passionate, flawed, hopeful, to shape a better future together. My friends, we can together shape the future that we all want. There is no perfect peace or peace that we can. That there is no perfect peace or pace that we can make good, right. We can make progress. Truth doesn't always shout. It doesn't come with flashing lights or dramatic music. It doesn't need to be retweeted a million times or plastered on a billboard. Truth is steady. It's quiet. It doesn't bend to popularity or sway with polls. It just waits. It waits for people to notice, to recognize it, to return to it when all the noise fades away. And no matter how much spin, how many distractions, or how much denial gets thrown at it, truth outlasts all of it. Always has, always will. In leadership, you can try to rewrite the narrative. You can pretend facts are negotiable. You can put on a good show, rally a crowd, shift blame, and walk away like nothing happened. It asks if you were honest. It asks if you led with integrity. Because sooner or later, the truth catches up. And when it does, it speaks louder than any lie ever could. A leader's legacy isn't shaped by their most viral moment. It's shaped by the decisions they make when the stakes are high and the answers aren't easy. And in those moments, truth can be inconvenient. It can challenge your comfort. It can force you to acknowledge mistakes, to face consequences, and to change course. But that's not weakness. That's what responsibility looks like. That's what growth looks like. And people, especially the American people, they can handle the truth. What they can't handle is being lied to, being manipulated, being told that what they see with their own eyes isn't real. We live in a time when truth is often treated like an opinion, when misinformation spreads faster than facts, when people are encouraged to choose their version of reality like it's a flavor of ice cream. But democracy only works when there's a shared foundation of truth, when we can all agree on the ground we're standing on, even if we debate the path forward. If we lose that foundation, we lose our footing. We start slipping into something else, something darker, something more fragile. And yet, the power of truth remains. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. It doesn't need force to win. It just needs time and the willingness of people to defend it. When truth is under attack, it's not enough to stay silent. We have to stand up. We have to speak out. We have to say, this is what happened. This is what's real. This is what we will not ignore. Because when we do that, when we protect truth, elevate it, and use it as our guide, we not only hold our leaders accountable, we hold ourselves accountable. And we make sure that the country we pass on is stronger, wiser, and more honest than the one we inherited. So in the end, the measure of a leader isn't found in applause or headlines. It's found in the lives they touch, the trust they earn, and the truth they're willing to stand for. It's found in their courage to lift others up when it would be easier to tear them down, in their commitment to unity when division seems more profitable, and in their faith that our democracy, though imperfect, is worth protecting. Because history doesn't remember who shouted the loudest. It remembers who stood up when it mattered most, who told the truth, who led with heart, and who never forgot that leadership is, above all, a responsibility.